Hello, I'm Krishna Agarwal, and I'm recording this video to assist the Marie Curie applicants who are interested to write a Marie Curie application. This presentation was made in 2023 for one such presentations, and this is a recording being done in 2024 in June. So, in this presentation, I will discuss a little bit of what are the key components of a successful Marie Curie proposal through my own example. I believe that there are two key aspects of a successful Marie Curie independent fellowship proposal. I think now it is called Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship. And the two important components are complementarity and training goals. What is complementarity? A Marie Curie postdoc fellowship focuses a lot on two-way complementarity. If you go through the section 2 of the template that you use for making proposal, and if you also read the work program, you will see that complementarity, two-way transfer of knowledge, etc., are emphasized quite a lot. So what does this mean? This means that your project should be scientifically designed in such a way that the postdoctoral candidate brings something to the host which the host doesn't have but needs, and the host contributes something scientifically to the postdoctoral candidate's research which the postdoctoral candidate could not have in their existing ecosystems or in their previous ecosystems. Let me give you an example. I am a computational microscopist. This means that for a microscope, I understand its physics, its engineering, and its mathematics. And I develop algorithms so that we can get more information, more details out of a microscopy data. On the other hand, at UIT, there was a research group who was making new microscopes of a particular kind. They are called photonic chip based microscopes. Now, where did the complementarity come in? When I developed my first inverse solvers or my first algorithms to extract more out of microscopy data, I was limited to the commercial microscopes available around me. But my algorithms benefited the most if we could engineer those microscopes to have very specific kind of properties. So this is where the complementarity came in the sense that UIT was developing photonic chip-based microscopes. These microscopes had their own advantages, but they had an asset which was completely unexploited. This asset was that they could engineer the illumination in the microscope, but they had no way to make use of this engineered illumination unless they had someone like me. So UIT was missing someone who could develop algorithms to exploit an asset in their scientific development. And I was missing a group that could engineer illuminations or microscopes in a very systematic way. In this sense, the proposal was to make algorithms for these engineered systems such that our complementarity would get something more out of our individual research areas. So in this example, what I want to say that even scientifically, you want to design a project to exploit and to be very clear about complementarity. There should be something that your host cannot achieve without someone like you. And there should be something that you cannot achieve without a suitable host. So this should be very clear. This should be very apparent in section 1, the excellence, and section 2, the two-way complementarity, very, very clearly. The other important aspect is to have training goals. Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship is ultimately a career development program. So, first of all, your career objectives, your career goals should be very clearly identified and very clearly laid out. Also, it should be clear that in order to achieve your career goals, you have one or two components where you need something more. Specifically, you need training to achieve those goals. In my case, the only reason I would migrate to Europe from Singapore, I was in Singapore before applying for Marie Curie. The only reason I would migrate to Europe was to reach my career goal of becoming a faculty member, becoming an associate professor, and eventually a professor. So that was a career goal. It was clearly identified. But what was also understood after some exploration of EU community and discussion with my host was that becoming a faculty in Europe is easier if you have prestigious European or national grants of a certain value, 1 million euros approximately. So we identified that ERC starting grant could be a good way. We, even before writing the Marie Curie proposal, we assessed if I had some ideas which suited the ERC framework. Once we identified that, then the training goal was that my host should help me, train me, mentor me to write an ERC starting grant. And this was a very tangible career training goal because my host had secured ERC starting grant 3 to 4 years before this application. So he had a recent experience, he had undergone the entire process, and he could guide me. At the same time, it was very clear that achieving this goal and getting a successful ERC grant would lead to the career objectives that I have in mind. So this was one of the training goals. And it was a goal which could be measured very clearly. At the end of my Marie Curie project, if I said that I submitted an ERC starting grant application, the goal was achieved, the training goal was achieved. We set another training goal, and that training goal was related to understanding new disciplines, being able to collaborate multidisciplinarily on new disciplines such as photonics and bioimaging. Now, I said that I was already exposed to physics, to engineering, and to mathematics, but I was not exposed to photonics and bioimaging. However, how do you objectify such a training goal? You cannot objectify that. How would you say that I'm exposed to photonics now? How would you say that I'm exposed to bioimaging now? So instead of objectifying the goal, we said that this is one of the training goals. And in order to achieve this goal, of course, the host was a photonics expert, but also I was assigned a bioimaging collaborator. That I should work on the photonic chips was included as one of the work packages. That I should work with a very specific biological application and do bioimaging on it was made as one work package. So, although the training goal was not objectifiable, there were tangible measures taken to show that there is a seriousness to achieve this training goal. So, you should have training goals which are in line with your career objective and which are either measurable or you can tangibly show that these training goals will be achieved. So, these are two key aspects of a successful proposal. Also, remember that your career objective should be outlined clearly. The gaps that need to be fulfilled to achieve your career objective should be identified clearly, and at least two such gaps should be addressed in your training goals. So, what are they looking out of a successful Marie Curie project is something that you can try to address. In my particular case, my career objective was to become a faculty position. In order to achieve that, I needed my own funding. Marie Curie started as there. Mentoring to get a bigger funding, a more prestigious funding to become a professor was outlined, and the exposure to the other disciplines so that I can conduct excellent multidisciplinary research was identified. But I also included in my Marie Curie career goals, where we discuss our career goals, that I do not have my own network in Europe. So, one of the other things that I included in my dissemination work package was I would go out and expand my network. I would specifically build a biologists collaboration network. And this was outlined in my work package related to dissemination. This was also identified where the career objectives of the fellow are identified, are listed. Also, I identified that in order to be successful in Europe, multidisciplinary research is a must, and I would like to add photonics, biology, and bioimaging in my research portfolio to achieve the research growth that I wanted. Of course, at Marie Curie's starting point, I was an independent researcher, but I had explained very clearly that my career is towards becoming a faculty position, and in order to reach there, I will use Marie Curie as the first step. I want to become a research leader, and I will achieve this through the ERC starting grant and so on. So it is very important that according to the work program of Marie Curie Fellowship, you address what they are really interested in. I have not read the most recent work program, but I really encourage you to go through it to identify what they want out of it and to address that in your proposal. There are so many places where you can address it, but it is important that you follow some tricks. So, like I was saying, that complementarity is very important, that very clear career objectives is very important, that training is very important, right? And this shows through different sections. It also shows through how the reviewers, while reading your proposal, can identify these components clearly, unambiguously. So here are snippets from the result, the evaluation report that I got on my Marie Curie proposal. And I identify and underline those specific components that the reviewers were able to pick up from my proposal itself. So your proposal probably needs to use these phrases in order to communicate to reviewers directly that we have addressed them. The two-way transfer of knowledge was evident in excellence, where we discussed more science. Also, that I will have expanded networking opportunities as a career fulfillment was very clearly identified. It was also clearly identified even in the excellence section that I will be able to consolidate myself into a matured researcher. So these things, even in section 1 and 2, were very clearly outlined and written in such a manner that the reviewers could actually just copy and paste from the proposal. Also, in the impact section, this training goal was very clearly identified by the reviewer and written explicitly that my supervisor will help me in writing the ERC proposal. Also, that I will gain new skills is very clearly identified and noted down. So, a good Marie Curie proposal would not just address the work program, it would probably use the keywords from the work program directly to show that you are addressing the objectives of the work program. Because this work program is the way the evaluation criteria are designed. So, basically, when you address the work program, you are addressing the evaluation criteria directly. Well, these are my 2 cents about writing a good Marie Curie proposal. Please go through the work program. Please address two-way complementarity and please address career goals and training goals very clearly. Thank you very much. I hope this helps.